The strange noodle shop. If you ever find yourself walking at night and suddenly come across a bizarre noodle shop, especially one glowing with a strange light, be careful. What's more unsettling is that the shop owner may be talking, not to people, but to something unclean and unnatural. This story's eeriness may be beyond your imagination. It's best to silently repeat "no taboos" in your heart as you read, and tag that friend of yours who loves late-night snacks to watch together. The story takes place in the front district of Kaikun community. It is said to be the personal experience of Lee Jongping. Every night at midnight, he would go out to eat a late-night snack. At that hour, most restaurants were already closed. But it didn't matter to him. He had his own regular spot, a noodle shop that still operated at midnight. It wasn't that the noodles there were especially delicious. Rather, what was strange was its business hours. Logically, there shouldn't have been any customers so late. But somehow the place was always full every night. One night, after Lee Jongping finished his noodles and stepped outside, a beggar approached him. Thinking it must be tough to beg so late at night, he took out 5 yuan and handed it over. The beggar seemed like he wanted to say something, but Lee ignored him and walked away. The next night, Lee returned to the noodle shop. As he reached the entrance, he saw the same beggar sitting there. Not wanting to pay attention, he tried to pass by. But just as he reached the door, the beggar grabbed him tightly. Refusing to let go, not allowing Lee to step inside, Lee grew annoyed. After all, he had given the man money. Yet here he was, clinging to him. But the beggar's face was filled with terror as he whispered, "Those people inside Eden, they aren't human." Lee immediately thought the beggar must be insane. Shaking off his hand, he walked straight into the shop. Of course, he couldn't really believe such a thing. Still, unconsciously, he glanced around at the diners. Their behavior and movements all seemed perfectly normal. Nothing out of the ordinary. Feeling amused at his own thoughts, Lee buried his head and continued eating his noodles. But just as he stepped outside after finishing, the beggar rushed up to block him again. This time, Lee was furious. He demanded to know what the beggar actually wanted. In response, the beggar pulled out a small blue bottle of medicine and said, "Apply this liquid above your eyebrows. Then you'll see whether they are really human or not." The truth revealed in the noodle shop. Not wanting the beggar to pester him any further, Lee Jongping accepted the small bottle and quickly ran back home. Curious, he opened it, but couldn't figure out what the liquid inside was. On the third night, Lee still went to the noodle shop as usual. Remembering the beggar's words, he secretly dabbed some of the liquid onto his eyebrows. Almost immediately, his vision felt sharper and clearer. Then he looked around at the customers inside the shop. What he saw next would haunt him for the rest of his life. The diners, who just moments before had looked like ordinary people, suddenly revealed themselves as corpses, their faces pale and lifeless. Yet they continued to eat, oblivious, shoveling down bowls of noodles crawling with worms and insects. Terrified, Lee lowered his head, not daring to look any longer. But when he glanced at his own bowl of beef noodles, it too had transformed. Thick, foul-smelling broth, writhing with maggots and crawling bugs. Lee screamed in horror and tried to flee, but his cry only drew the attention of every ghost in the room. He leapt to his feet and rushed toward the exit, only to slam into someone's arm. It was the shop owner. The owner stared at him coldly and asked if he had seen something that frightened him. At that moment, Lee didn't want to hear anything. He just wanted to escape. Bursting out of the noodle shop, he once again encountered the beggar outside. The beggar tried to stop him, but Lee shoved him aside and ran as fast as he could. From that day on, Lee never returned to that noodle shop again. As for who was truly suspicious, the beggar or the shop owner, he never sought to find out.